Folks, greetings from Athens. My name is Georgios Maris. Thank you very much for hearing me. I was asked to speak about spinal cord stimulation, a favorite topic, indications, techniques, and outcomes. Let's start with pain first. We all know that there is an unmet need here. Chronic pain is one of the most prevalent and debilitating conditions worldwide, affecting more or less 35% of the global population. It arises when pain signals become dysregulated or occurring in the absence of identifiable tissue damage. We all know that conventional treatment strategies, including pharmacotherapy, physical rehabilitation, and surgical intervention, frequently provide inadequate relief. Many patients remain trapped in a cycle of poor pain control, reduced function, and diminishing quality of life. Spinal cord stimulation is one of the many neuromodulation options. It is an implantable or reversible neurostimulation therapy delivering targeted electrical impulses to the dorsal columns and horns of the spinal cord, modulating aberrant pain signal transmission before it reaches conscious perception. So we have electrical impulses, precisely calibrated waveforms delivered via epidural leads electrodes to the posterior epidural space adjacent to the dorsal columns. We have signal modulation. Therapy interrupts and modulates ascending nociceptive transmission, reducing the brain's perception of pain without damaging neural tissue. And we have a durable analgesia, long-term pain relief sustained over years with adjustable parameters that can be tuned as the patient's condition evolves. How does it work? Spinal cord stimulation exerts its analgesic effects through several complementary and synergistic mechanisms: neurotransmitter modulation, descending inhibition, cortical reorganization. Spinal cord stimulation promotes the release of inhibitory neurotransmitters and mainly GABA within the dorsal horn, suppressing excitatory pain signaling, and serotonin and adenosine pathways are also implicated in this procedure. Descending inhibition stimulation activates supraspinal structures, reinforcing descending inhibitory control from the periaqueductal gray and rostral ventromedial medulla, the natural pain suppressing circuits in the brain. Cortical reorganization. Spinal cord stimulation is associated with measurable changes in cortical activity and connectivity, particularly in pain processing regions, suggesting neuroplastic adaptation beyond simple single signal blockade. Today, we have different types of stimulation, different waveforms. We have high frequency stimulation with 10,000 Hz, 10 kHz, a stimulation below the paresthesia threshold. We have burst stimulation, which mimics natural neural firing with packets of closely spaced pulses. And the interesting thing here is that this type of stimulation targets both the sensory and the affective, emotional, cognitive dimensions, aspects of pain, meaning that it is associated with improvements in anxiety and mood comorbidities. We have closed loop systems which use real-time neural feedback to automatically adjust stimulation intensity, compensating for positional changes, ensuring consistent optimal dosing throughout the day. And then we have the traditional tonic stimulation with the tickling sensation with paresthesias, and newer subperception modes like fast-acting subperception therapy. And all of these waveforms are tailored to patient preference and pain distribution. Who benefits from spinal cord stimulation? There are many indications. The major one is the famous failed back surgery syndrome, or the new term persistent spinal pain syndrome, which is actually persistent radicular or axial or both pain following lumbar and spine surgery or cervical or thoracic spine surgery. And this is the single largest indication for spinal cord stimulation implantation. Patients with complex regional pain syndrome, type 1 or 2, with or without capsalgia, patients who have allodynia, autonomic dysfunction, and disproportionate pain after injury or nerve damage. Diabetic patients with this painful diabetic peripheral neuropathy who are reporting burning, shooting, lower extremity pain, refractory to pharmacologic management in diabetic patients. Ischemic pain, stable refractory angina, critical lip ischemia. We are talking here about patients who have already received stents or bypasses. They are taking medications and they still have pain. And the last group is the cancer pain. Selected patients with refractory cancer-related pain, neuropathic pain, which are not adequately controlled by opioids or adjuvant therapy. The leads we are using, the leads that we are implanting, are precisely positioned in the posterior epidural space, overlying the dorsal columns and the spinal levels corresponding to the patient's pain distribution, translating anatomy into analgesia. For example, if we have a patient with back pain, we'll place the tip of the lead at T7, T8, or T9. The procedure. The most important step is the patient selection. We need a comprehensive psychological screening, pain mapping, and multidisciplinary evaluation. There is typically a trial period, 5 to 7 days, in some countries 2 weeks or 2 months even, but this is mandatory before permanent implantation to confirm efficacy. Perioperative management, we have to take into consideration the anticoagulation bridging, antibiotic prophylaxis, imaging review. We are performing this procedure under fluoroscopic guidance. The patient is usually awake or under light sedation for real-time feedback. During the implantation phase, we have percutaneous cylindrical leads or surgically placed paddle leads, which are advanced to the target level. We have a battery, a neurostimulator, this IPG, the implantable pulse generator, which is placed subcutaneously in the abdomen or usually in the buttock area. Postoperative care, activity restrictions for 6 to 2 weeks, 1 to 2 months, incision monitoring, systematic programming optimization. We need a long-term follow-up, which includes battery monitoring and parameter adjustments as needed. And we have some emerging technologies that make the life of our patients even better. We already discussed about these ECAP systems, this ECAP control closed-loop spinal cord stimulation. When we stimulate the spinal cord reacts with these evoked compound action potentials, which we can actually measure. And this is the spinal cord's real-time electrophysiological response to each stimulation pulse. The systems can automatically adjust output to maintain a consistent therapeutic neural response, compensating for postural changes and impedance variation. We have clinical data showing superior pain relief consistency compared to open loop systems, the first traditional systems. And then we have another neuromodulation technique, the dorsal root ganglion stimulation, which targets the dorsal root ganglion with highly focal electrical stimulation. It is particularly advantageous for discrete pain territories, mainly the foot. And these are areas that are difficult to cover with conventional dorsal column spinal cord stimulation. And there are studies, especially involving CLPS patients, showing superior outcomes in, for example, this accurate RCT study. Do we actually have improvements with this therapy? Yes, we have. We have pain reduction. The majority of appropriately selected patients, and this is very important, the selection of the patients is the most important part of this therapy. These patients achieve at least 50% reduction in pain scores, which is actually the standard benchmark for clinical success in neuromodulation trials. We have functional gains. We have reported rates of meaningful improvement in physical capacity, returning to daily activities, in some cases return to work. We have opioid reduction. Average reduction in daily opioid consumption among patients is almost 40%. Increased quality of life, sleep, mood, social participation, overall well-being, as measured with specific validated instruments like SF36 or EQ5D. Before spinal cord stimulation, we have pain which is persistent, refractory, despite multimodal therapy. Patients have limited mobility and physical deconditioning, high opioid burden and diminishing returns, sleep disruption, anxiety, and social withdrawal. After spinal cord stimulation, more than 50% pain reduction, and the majority of the patients improve mobility and return to daily activities, significant reduction in opioid requirements, enhanced sleep quality, and emotional well-being. We are speaking about an evidence-based efficacy. We have prospective clinical trials, we have cost utility evidence, we have long-term durability of this therapy. There are some landmark RCTs, including the PROCESS study, evaluating these persistent spinal pain syndrome patients or FBSS patients, the ACCURATE study, it's about dorsal ganglia stimulation, CRPS, the SENSE RCT study, evaluating 10,000 Hz stimulation versus conventional spinal cord stimulation. And all of these clinical trials demonstrate consistent superiority of spinal cord stimulation over conventional medical management, with durable benefits maintained at 2 years follow-up and beyond. We also have multiple health economic analyses, which confirm that spinal cord stimulation achieves favorable ICERS, incremental cost-effectiveness ratios, well within accepted thresholds, and the upfront implant cost, which is indeed high, is typically offset within 2 to 3 years through reduced hospitalizations, fewer outpatient visits, and decreased medication expenditure. Long-term durability. We have registered data and long-term follow-up studies up to 10 years, which confirm that a substantial proportion of patients maintain clinically meaningful pain relief with stable or improving functional status, supporting spinal cord stimulation as a durable rather than transient intervention. We have some challenges. There are some possible complications with this therapy, and the patients and the colleagues should be aware of them. Implant site infections, reported rates 2 to 8%. We have superficial infections that may respond to antibiotics. We have also deep infections that often necessitate device explantation. These problems are mitigated by strict sterile technique, prophylactic antibiotics, and antibiotic impregnated implant components. Device malfunctions such as lead migration, fracture, connector failure can result in loss of stimulation efficacy. The paddle leads carry lower migration risk than the percutaneous ones, but require an open surgical placement. Battery depletion requires an IPG replacement, the battery replacement, under local anesthesia. Ongoing management. Spinal cord stimulation is like a marriage, is a lifelong therapy, requiring regular program reviews, device interrogation, and patient education on activity restrictions. For example, MRI compatibility, diathermy avoidance, and a multidisciplinary follow-up optimizes the long-term outcomes. The future of spinal cord stimulation will have a personalized pain management. We need precision in neuromodulation, and all these advances in neural sensing, AI-driven programming, and biomarker-guided patient selection are enabling truly individualized therapy. Future systems will certainly adapt dynamically to changes in pain state, activity level, and neural response without the intervention of clinicians. But we also have to understand pain deeper. We need a growing insight into pain neurophysiology, glial involvement, central sensitization, and all of these things are illuminating new therapeutic targets. Next generation spinal cord stimulation platforms may combine electrical stimulation with pharmacological delivery or transcriptomic feedback to address pain at its biological roots. We also have and we are developing miniaturized, rechargeable, and MRI-safe IPGs, along with wireless programming interfaces, which are making spinal cord stimulation more accessible, comfortable, and compatible with modern clinical workflow. Spinal cord stimulation represents one of the most powerful evidence-based tools available to pain medicine, offering patients with refractory chronic pain a realistic path to restore function and improve well-being. We have a proven efficacy with robust level 1 evidence across multiple indications, with personalized therapy, with waveforms, targets, closed loop systems, and we have evolving innovation, a rapidly advancing technology landscape promising even greater precision, safety, and patient-centered outcomes. That was all. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. Thank you very much for your invitation. Please feel free to reach out with any further questions, and this is my email address. Thank you very much.